Hello, in this video we're going to see about iApplication Builder, iConfiguration, iHosting environment and iService collection present inside the .NET Core framework.
iApplication Builder. What is iApplication Builder? iApplication Builder is used to configure application request pipeline and also used to add middleware. Whenever you try to add some new middleware in the application, you can see it will be using iApplication Builder as the extension method. Even when you try to create some new custom middleware, we have to use iApplication Builder extension method to add the request into the application pipeline. Developer can add middleware component to an iApplication Builder instance to configure the request pipeline.
Let's see in real-time example what is iApplication Builder. So I created a new .NET Core web application. Since this is a latest version of .NET 8.0, we don't have the concept of config and config services method. Since this is following the top level statements. So now let's see what is iApplication Builder. As we seen already, iApplication Builder is used to configure the application request. So how the application request can be configured by using this middleware. Whenever we try to add some middleware, you can see it's following the extension method iApplication Builder. As you can see here, all this middleware will be configured and added into this iApplication Builder, and this iApplication Builder is responsible for handling the application request. So to know the importance of the iApplication Builder, I created a new custom middleware as you can see here. As you can see here, this custom middleware is using iApplication Builder static class. So this is the extension method used to add the middleware to the HTTP request pipeline.
iConfiguration. What is iConfiguration? The iConfiguration is an interface which is used for reading settings and connection string from app.settings.json file. We will be storing all settings and connection string related information in the app.settings.json file. So for reading that, we will be using the interface iConfiguration. The iConfiguration interface need to be injected as dependency in the controller and then later used throughout the controller.
So for understanding this, I created a new MVC core application. Now let's see how we can utilize iConfiguration to read the settings file. So this is the app settings file. Now let's create a new connection string here. I created the connection string. Now let's try to read the settings. How we can do that? We can do that with help of iConfiguration. Since I'm using .NET Core latest version of 8.0, we no need to create a dependency here. If you're using previous versions, we have to create something called builder.services.add singleton or whatever the scope actually, and then we have to pause here iConfiguration, and then we have to pause the configuration here. So this way we have to create. It won't support because this is having the latest version. So directly we can able to inject the iConfiguration. Let's see how we can do that. We are using the constructor home controller here. Now let's try to create another variable. Let's remove this and create iConfiguration. Now let's try to read the configuration settings. For doing that, let's store something that test is equal to underscore configuration dot. Yeah. Now let's debug and see whether we can able to read the configuration settings present inside the app settings.json. Let's debug and see whether we can able to read the data present inside the settings. Yeah, we can able to read the data. So this is the data present inside the app settings.json. Let's verify that. As you can see here, this is the settings file we have stored inside the default connection. And we are trying to read here by using the iConfiguration. By using iConfiguration, we can able to achieve that. So this is all about the iConfiguration, and inside the app settings.json we not only going to store the connection string but also we can able to store many settings file. such like we can able to store this password as well as user secret as well as secret key. Many settings we can able to store inside the app setting.json, and for retrieving that we can simply use iConfiguration to retrieve it from anywhere inside the application.
iHosting environment. So what is iHosting environment? iHosting environment is an interface renamed as iWebHost environment in later version is used to provide information about the hosting environment in which the application is running. So this iHosting environment interface is used to find about the current environment in which the application is running. The main purpose of iHosting interface are environment detection. The iHosting environment interface provides properties that allows you to determine the current hosting environment. Common properties include environment names such like development, staging or production. By using is staging, is development or is production boolean flags, these properties help you identify the current environment and adjust the application behavior accordingly. Next, configuration file selection. The iHosting environment interface plays a role in loading environment specific configuration file. It is used to determine which configuration file such as app settings, environment.json should be loaded based on the current environment. This enables you to have the different configuration setting for each environment. For example, as we seen in earlier example, app settings.json is used to show the configuration files as well as settings. So we can able to have different kind of app settings such like app settings.development.json, app settings.staging.json. Like that we can have multiple files and based on the environment we can able to fetch the value. Next, file path resolution. The iHosting environment interface provides method to resolve file paths within the hosting environment. For example, you can use the content root path property to get the root path of the application and the web root path property to get the root path of the web content. Actually, iHosting environment is having two property. One is content root path and another one is web root path. By using content root path, we can able to get the root path of the application, and by using the web root path, we can able to get the web content of the application.
Let's see in real-time example to understand more about iHosting environment. So what is the use of iHosting environment? Here you can see app.environment.isDevelopment. When you try to keep the pointer here you can see it is showing iWebHost environment, which means since we are using the latest version of .NET Core 8.0, the iHosting environment is no more available. It is changed to iWebHost environment. So the main use of iHosting environment is to check the environment type is development or is production or is staging. We can able to configure the condition based on the environment. So that is the one of the main purpose of using iHosting environment or iWebHost environment. Also, if you try to go inside this iWebHost environment, so this is the interface which is having two methods. One is web root path and another one is web root file provider. We will see more about this in later videos. So this is all about the iWebHost environment. So if we want to check this condition like whether the environment is staging, production or development in multiple controller, then just we can inject them into this controller and we can check wherever we want actually. Such like private read only. Now let's run and see whether the environment is production or not. False. So we can able to check the environment by passing the iHost environment by injecting into the controller. So this is all about the iWebHost environment or iHosting environment.
iService collection. What is iService collection? iService collection is an interface provided by Microsoft.extension.dependency injection namespace and is typically used to configure and register services within the application service container. If we take earlier version of .NET Core application, we will be having two types of method. One is configure method and another one is configure services method. By using the configure service method, we can able to add services to the container, such like transient, scope or singleton. For registering those services, we will be using the iService collection property. Config service method takes iService collection to register services. As we told earlier, configure services will be using iService collection to register the services. Developers use iService collection to register various services and dependencies that the application needs. These services can include database context, repositories, application service, and more. So for registering the services to the container, we will be using something called database context, repositories, application service, and many more, where we'll be using to register the dependency injection to the container.
So let's see in real-time example what is iService collection. iService collection is used to add services to the container. So how we can do that? So generally we'll be having two methods as we said. One is configure method and another one is configure service method. But since we are using the latest version of .NET Core 8.0, we don't have the concept of config method and config services. Since this is a top level statements. As you can see here, we will be having the builder object. So using this, we can able to add services to the container. As you can see here, this services is inheriting from the iService collection method. So by using this builder object, we can able to add services to the container. Builder dot services dot add singleton. So this way we can able to register our services to the container. Let's see how we can do that. Let's create a simple example. Let's create one class which is nothing but service class, and let's create one interface iService. Let's create definition for this class. Let's print simple hello world. Let's create an unimplemented definition inside this iServices. Okay. Now let's register the services by using the builder object. How we can do that? Builder dot services dot add singleton. This way we can able to register. Why we are getting some error? Because I think we are not implementing here. That's the reason. Now let's see whether we are getting that error. Yeah, it went. So this is how we can able to register our services. Since we are using the top level statement in .NET Core 8.0 latest version, there is no concept of configure services. So we can able to register our service directly without using the iService collection. But in case if you are using the older version of .NET Core, we can able to see here we will be having the configure service method where we will be having iService collection. By using that iService collection, we can able to register our services. Something like you can say configure which is having parameter of iService collection, services. So we'll be using services dot.
Add singleton or add scope.
So we added services to the container. Now let's see how we can use this service. We have created service class and iService interface. Now let's see how we can use them in the home controller. Let's create a new property, iService underscore service. Yes. Now let's try to call that service by using service dot print. So this will be returning the hello world. So let's store that string into the string variable output. Now let's pass this to the UI. How we can do that? By using viewback dot output is equal to output. Let's print that in the view. Now let's run and see whether we are getting the output. So here you can see we are getting the output as hello world.